So this, Rabotai, is the reason why Kadosh Baruch Hu made it more difficult for Rivka to get the water. He wanted to give her the full reward. And that's in essence also, when it came to her marrying at such a young age, even though physically she was bigger than people are today at that age, still it was relatively young anyway, because we see that Yitzchak still had to wait 3 years. So why didn't just Yitzchak let us stay home for 3 years? So I had to stay home because Lavan and his mom said, listen, Eliezer, why don't you let us stay with us for a little while? You know, the father just died. Let us stay with us for a little while, maybe a few weeks, a few months, a few years. She's still young. He didn't see this yesterday. Why? Because he didn't think she was going to leave. He thought he was going to kill Eliezer. Let us stay with us for a little while. And they say, oh, hold on a second. Let's not delay. We already made a deal. Let's not delay. Let's just go right now. Why was Eliezer so pressing? It wasn't like Yitzchak was an old man. He was only 37 years old. It wasn't an old man. So what's the pressing? What's the problem? Every single minute she stayed in that house next to Lavan Arami was a life danger. Every single second you stay friends with your old Christian friends, with your old missionary friends, with your old atheist friends, with your old friends that are anti-Torah, is a life risk. Life risk. And that's why the Chachamim say, stay away from the ugly and even what looks like it's ugly. Stay away from something ugly, which is clearly atheism, missionizing, garbage, anti-Torah, and so on. But even if it looks like it's ugly, what does it mean if it looks like? It's one of your religious friends that likes to watch movies. He's religious, but he likes to go to the movie theater and watch a few filthy movies over there. Stay away from him too. Why? Because within a matter of time, he'll affect you. She'll affect you. Your girlfriend, your best friend since kindergarten, she doesn't really like the Torah. She doesn't really like to walk around modest. Stay away from her too. Why? Because it's only a matter of time. If you're in a transition to do tshuva, being surrounded by people that are part of your past will keep you there. You'll have a much more difficult time moving forward if you're surrounded by people that are from your past. Why? Because they're not moving forward, and you want to. But now, you're going to feel bad about moving forward while they stay the same. You're going to feel embarrassed to move forward while they stay the same. They're going to remind you of it constantly. So you have to make some very difficult choices. Unless they're respectable people, unless they're very receptive, and so on. But if the people are anti-Torah, or they're simply just mikulkalim, people are just simply rotten. They're just something went wrong that's along the lines, and unless there's a hand of Hashem involved, you can't change them. You have to stay away. And that's what, in essence, was happening here with Rivka. Even though she was young, not young like a 3-year-old like we think, but still young. Too young to consummate the marriage. Still had to wait 3 years. Eliezer still plucked her out of that danger and brought her to the house of Yitzchak. Brought her to the house of Yitzchak. And this is important for a person to know, is that people always ask me, how do you survive this world? Somebody asked me this week, especially young men, ask me, how do you survive this world? Where even if you want to protect your eyes, even if you want to protect your bleat, even if you want to do all types of things, how do you do it? First and foremost, you have to learn Torah and Musar. If you're not learning Torah and Musar every single day, you're going to have a very difficult time. Now, when it comes to learning Torah and Musar, you not only have to learn Torah and Musar, but you also have to learn Torah and Musar from a place that inspires you. Because many times people get inspired by, let's say, our shiurim, to do tshuva, to get some chizuk, to do good things, and then they figure they finished. They watched 50 shiurim, 100 shiurim, 200 shiurim, they figure they're finished. Let me move on to just learning books. Mistake. Why is it a mistake? If those shiurim inspired you to get started, they're inspiring you now. even if you don't notice it as much as you did in the beginning. And you abandoning it, you letting it go is a mistake, and you could easily fall back to where you used to be. So you have to continue watching those shurim and learning those shurim, whether it's me or Rav Mizrahi or anybody else that's a strong speaker. You have to keep doing it. Second thing is you have to put a fence around certain things, meaning you have to try to mitigate the risk by not putting yourself in risky situations. So for example, for young men, where they have a tough time, let's say, going out in the public and when they need to do things like shopping. Easy. HaKadosh Baruch Hu made it easy. Even though there's znut everywhere, there's filthy stuff everywhere, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us easy choices to avoid it. In Western society, in America, it's much easier to avoid it than it is in other places that are not as developed, but nonetheless, in most places that Jews live, it's relatively developed areas, and you could simply not go to the stores. Ever. Never go to a store. You need food, there's something called a computer. You press a button, and the computer says, okay, I'll give you the food. That's what happens. This is how we shop. We shop every week, every day, all the time, whatever we need, on a computer. We go on a computer, we go on a website, whatever website you need, whether it's a supermarket website, or it's Amazon, my buddy, or whoever it is. You need something, you press a couple of buttons, within a little while, boxes show up. That's it. That's the way it is. Why? Because you want to limit certain things. So, can you go to the store? Yes, you can go to the store. But if you know that you can't handle it, don't go to the store. And just be conscious of the fact that there are certain places that trigger you, and you have to think of a solution. And a solution doesn't mean like, oh, no, you know what, I'm going to go, but I'm just going to close my eyes the whole time. You have to be realistic. You have to be realistic. You have to do certain things. There are easier solutions than looking weird. So, and again, there are different things that you can do to protect yourself. But again, this also includes protecting yourself from friends, from televisions and cable channels, from internet, that's websites and all types of channels that are full of garbage, from music that's full of garbage. You have to get rid of a lot of the stuff that triggers you. Why? Because if you want to progress, that means you have to abandon the past. Now, I don't expect you, and I don't think that you even can abandon all of the bad overnight, and it's not even normal for a person to do that simply because you don't even know what to abandon initially. But the point being is that if you know that something causes you to think of the past too much, you have to abandon it. You have to abandon it. There are certain things you have to be more strict with than others, but nonetheless, you have to move away from the danger. Sur mera ve'aseh tov. Stay away from evil and do good. So that's in essence also one of the things that Eliezer was doing over there when he was plucking Rebecca out of that dangerous situation called her family, because he knew that Rivka was a miracle. She was a miracle because she was still a tzadikah despite being surrounded by wicked people. But how long can you rely on that? Sometimes there's certain people that have better character traits, good people, better nature, and so on and so forth. But even those good people, if they're surrounded by bad people for an extended amount of time, it's going to affect them. I can tell you, before we go to the next question, personal story. When I was maybe 12 years old, we moved to a new house. Baruch Hashem, for the first 10 years we were in America, we moved to a new house every year, almost like now. We moved to this new house, and I met this this kid my age named Joey. And he was a good kid, nice kid, and we were going to the same school, and he just moved from Brooklyn to there, and we became friends. He lived close to me, across the street from me, and we became friends, and we saw each other in school, and we were in the same classes a bunch of times, and we would compete on grades, who was doing better, who was that, friendly competition. And smart kid, good kid, and everything was good. Over the next year or two, he became friends with a few kids that weren't really good in school. Actually, they were terrible in school, but they were very good at making problems. They were very good at fist fights. They were very good at drugs. They were very good at a lot of other things. In the beginning, when he first said, made friends with them, I was very odd. Like, he's such a good kid. Like, what are you doing friends with these people? But anyway, well, you're not anybody's father. As you would have it, he became very good friends with them. And although we always remained friendly, and anytime we'll see each other many years later, we always say hello and so on, his life took a completely different turn than it could have. He could have been a scholar, he could have been a really smart person, he could have been a success. What did he become? Practically a gangster. He was part of this clan, this group, that literally would get into fist fights for no reason and just beating people up senselessly. It was known how dangerous these kids were, and they caused a lot of damage in the neighborhood and other neighborhoods and so on, and he actually eventually became practically their leader for the next several years. I'm surprised he didn't go to jail, but some of the other members did. But that's what happened. Even though he was a good kid, smart and everything, you surround yourself with bad people, eventually it's going to affect you. Eventually it's going to affect you. I know that he grew up out of it pretty much. I mean, last time I saw him was probably 7-8 years ago, and he was a regular blue-collar guy, still not married, still, nothing going on. He wasn't killing anybody, at least not to my knowledge, but nothing happened. Like, he just became some, average Joe, literally, where he could have he had the brain and to be somebody. Why? You want to hang out, you want to have a good time, and with gangsters. And even though those gangsters were also 12 and 13 and 14 years old, they affected him. So that happens a lot. So that's the thing you have to understand. If you're going to be surrounded by bad people, you're going to be affected. Whether you are good or bad in your nature, doesn't matter. It's a matter of time, it's going to affect you.